Now, I just realised that I had the sound off. Danelle just pointed that out to me, so sorry about that, guys. We've just gone through, just started edging into the... So everything I said before, you can pretty much don't worry too much about that. But we've just started off on the Dow. That's a bit of a bummer. I think my computer didn't upgrade, and it looks like it didn't hook up. It just defaulted back to the wrong mic. The mic was up and running, but there was no sound. So, can you all hear me now, loud and clear now? And just put it into the chat. Sounds good. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I think it's my fuzzy head with all the bit of a cold. Thanks to Della for that. Anyway, so what we're saying, we're saying just we've got that weekly on the Dow. You can see that Dow's been holding up. We had a bit of a press down. We got a major level around that 1550, and that produced that leg up. And what if you viewed those videos yesterday on the indices, you can see after we pushed up, we started at that stage, we started pressing up into those highs around 1800, bit of a pullback, back to the MAs, but held above those, had a bit of an expansion through the highs, bit of contraction back down, touched back on the 50 MA, and then really started accelerating high, and that's led us up into those new highs. Currently where we're at, on the weekly, still looking quite good. It's got the potential to really break up through these highs into new highs and just keep on going and really start dragging in more people as they potentially looking for a bit of a sell-off. It's not happening, and then chasing the tails and back into the market. We'll get over the S&P in a minute, but you can see that looks quite good. It just has to break up through, say, 21, some of these highs. Well, we got high here of around 21, say 2100, and then off she goes. I think that's going to take out the highs. We've got a nice little high low in here, a minor double bottom, a little washout with that pullback back to the MAs, or what does Davin call it, the mean reversion trade. So that little double bottom, and that's led to another push up into the highs, pull back to build that high low. So it's all still looking quite good, quite strong on that on the indice there. That's the Dow. We'll look at the S&P. Now the S&P just barely scraped into new highs overnight. We've got 2404, and I think the previous high was 2405. So actually, that was where we closed. Yeah, so pretty much touched on the new highs overnight. But that's pretty much the same type of pattern. You can see holding above the MAs, pull back, double bottom, that contraction with some minor lower highs, lower lows, builds a little higher low here above 23.25, and that's pushed us back up into the highs. Bit of a drop, like we said last week, and then we've made all that back plus a bit more, back into the highs, so that's just built that high low. Looking quite good, so that's still positive. There's no reason to be... unless you're going to second guess it and you just try to guess a bit of a sell-off, there's no reason to be too bearish on that. It's still looking quite good. Now, if we go into the ASX, actually, let's look at the FTSE, just the major indices. That's a bit of the same. That's still looking quite good. This is a daily chart, and you can see, like I said, it's up getting a bit extended up here, but there's no reason why it can't. If you look way back, this is December last year, extended at that stage, and look what we did. We pretty much put on from 6,900 right up to about 400-500 points. So there's no reason why the market can't do that. It could just extend that move, push up towards 76, 77, and still remain in that sort of overbought extended territory. So you really got to look at the price action, just sort of guide you to what you're doing on the markets, or in the markets anyway. I mean, if you want to short it, if people think this market's a bit overcooked and they're looking for a short, again, just wait for that price action to set up. Now, it's not at the moment, at least not on the FTSE, not on the Dow that we just viewed. It's not set up there on a daily basis anyway, or the S&P. Now, if we look at our market, what have we got? The XJO. We are more of a negative market. You're still holding up above that sort of, was it 56.75 zone? It just pushed through there. So we've had a nice little pullback to the MAs. We can see around 56, bit of a washout. That's led us back up to the highs, built an inside high low, which led us up to 59.50. That's that was the most recent higher low at 58, which we took out probably last week with that bit of a sell-off. Now we do look like, unlike the other indices, we do look like we're struggling a bit more than the say the Dow, the FTSE, and even the DAX. I think is into new highs. We are really a less aggressive market. We're very aggressive on the downside, but less aggressive on the upside, and we tend to just chip away on the upside. So I think any sign of trouble, we run for the hills, but when things are looking good, we tend to just drift higher. It doesn't, we've had a good move up here. We'll be back on the weekly, on the daily. That little pullback, but if we can hold up above 57, and I wouldn't mind seeing a higher low in here if we're just going to find a bit more selling. If we get into the intraday charts, which we will in a second, we'll go to the CFD ones. Build that higher low, I think it's going to take us up and through, but I think I was looking at just the CFD charts, which has got all the overnight action as well, and they look quite positive. I haven't looked at them just yet, but we'll just kick over. What's everyone else's view while we're looking at that? That's not what I wanted, is it? Let me just get it up. Sorry, guys. Looks like I've got to just log back in. Just give me 1 minute here. What's everyone else's views on the indices? We're obviously, the ASX is like, I think Davin mentioned it yesterday, in that the indices on the ASX, it's tended to be a bit more action below the MAs, which suggests a bit of correction, or maybe we're gonna see a bit of consolidation. It'd be nice to see a bit of consolidation of these highs. If the US and say Europe's going to go on with it, that's going to drag us higher. But otherwise, we might be factoring in a bit of a sell-off already. Be interesting to see the coming few days anyway. Now, let's just get on to ASX200. Here we go. So I've still got a bit of a cold, so a bit miserable the last few days. Probably the last week, it's really might come across a bit croaky, a bit or husky, I guess you could say. All right, let's just kick on to the 30-minute chart. All right, so we've just washed out that 57.53. That was on the open. So that, which the markets tend to do. So if anyone watches the indices, or the lower time frame charts, it's good. It's actually good to see that. I don't mind seeing a bit of a washout to the downside, because for me, it sort of washes out that and then bounces right back again. And I think it'll be holding these highs. This is quite nice price action the last few days, holding above 57.53. I'll say 57.50. And that, don't forget, this is half an hour chart, so it is just a couple of days price action. But we've got that push down at 57.50, 56.81. Pop back up, retest that sort of breakout zone, and then we're holding up around that zone. So it's only really about 40 points below there, and it's just been bouncing around that range for a while now. And when we see that washout, it'd be nice if we can build that higher low, and that starts really accelerating higher through 57.93. Only time will tell, but I don't mind this price action. It was looking better up until into the close last night, and then what happens time and time again, the market will wash out. So if you can see there's just been probably a few buyers starting to step in the later half of the US session overnight. They get washed out on the open early hours of the probably 10 to 10. Today by the futures market, and the CFDs will get washed out. The futures will wash them out, and then it bounces back as the ASX opens. So don't mind that. I don't mind seeing a washout. Generally, of a key level, it could be followed by a bit of a rally, and vice versa. If you got a key level on the upside, it just gets washed out, like we did here. Didn't roll over from there. We did roll over down to that 57.50 zone, but that's a bit of a washout. Like if you've got a nice resistance zone, the market can pop up through, wash it out, and then start to roll over from there if it builds some lower highs. So it's all up. I don't mind it too much at all. We'll see how that plays out. Now let's just get over to any questions on those, just what we've looked at so far, before I get over to what we've been following. Excuse me. So we've got AFY. Afterpay, which kicked off yesterday, was quite good. We've been in that from 255. We just get it up a bit more. So you can see we bought it up through, you've got this contraction low, a bit of a washout of these lows of $2 just in here, followed by a sharp, the next few days, a sharp bounce, a sharp reaction off that zone, taking out that lower high at around that 235. So it was looking good. You can see the MA is crossing to the upside, and most of the action's above those, above the 20 and the 50 MA. Even just in here, we've had this correction low, so we built a little higher low above that, above those MAs, which is looking quite good so far. So if we can get the price after yesterday's price action looking quite positive, get a bit of a push up through 265, 266 with these highs. I expect we're going to at least push up to 280 and potentially up through or through $3. Which is around the all-time highs anyway, because that's all the price action. So I think it's got a good little story too on AFY, so we do like that. And what I think really triggered me looking at this is that little washout there. You've got the market's had a good push up, a bit of a pullback, held the high lows, price action was looking good, took out the highs, and that wasn't, after this strong move up, you expect probably a bit of consolidation at least, and we got that. We got a bit of a pullback, still holding a good level at 220, pushed back up towards the high, made that lower high. So then that's generally going to be led by taking out the previous major lows at 220, which we did that with this push down off a major lower high at 280 as well. Pushed down through, popped back up, made a lower high. So if that was negative, you would have expected that to really start accelerating and come back down to sort of that 160 zone. But it didn't, really just washed it out and then reacted quite sharply off that. So that was looking good at that stage. Then holding these high lows, little breakout through 255. Didn't go too far before we pulled back, but it's looking good again. We're starting to pick up and it's starting to lift off 255, 250 zone. So we'll see how that one goes. We've had a good one, MND, where we are 1305. So that was one that was alerted quite a while ago and was really looking for a break up through 1295. It was looking a bit better at this stage. If everyone can follow, at this stage when it broke up, when it was heading up there, I thought it was going to kick on through, but it didn't. It pretty much fell over with the rest of the market, but it didn't take out the lows at 220, 215 and 220, the previous low. So that was the fact that it's held above there, only a minor high low. It was still quite a good sign, and we've just had the last, pretty much today, busted up and through at 1295 entry zone, and we'll just see if that can continue on, because that price action is looking quite good. We'll just go back to, you can see the markets, accelerated higher, a lot of heat come out of that market, built another high low, pushed up and towards the highs, couldn't push up through those highs at that stage, built a lower high, had a couple of nibbles at it. You can see there 3 times it tried. Beginning of 2017 was last. Had the pullback, wash out a few traders, put them back on the sidelines, build that high low just in here at around 10.25, and high low in context of the previous ones. So you can see that trend is moving quite well. Accelerated again through the previous highs at 12. And then, if the market can't go on with it, it's going to make those you would expect anyway. If it has a bit of a strong move higher and holding high lows, it has another go, which it did just at this stage. You can see. Can everyone see that? Which it did just at that stage. I'll just drill in a bit more. Just in here. When it can't get through the highs, then you would expect there's going to be people who are going to be sitting on the sidelines just watching it for a potential profit-taking opportunity, which did play out that way. But it's held at that 12 zone, which is really nice. So that was looking good. And they get a bit of a washout of 12, which also looks really nice. You get those lower highs pushing down, rejection of that zone. So it's opened, washed it out, closed at its highs. So that's a good little candle, if you can see. That little green candle there. Good promising signs. Then we've got this push up, holding high lows. So looking like if we can get this type of price action really start to accelerate, it could be looking good. So we'll be looking at a leg from, we've got 10.25 up to say 13. My maths is right, 175. If you take that from 12, it should be somewhere around 13.75 to 13, maybe up to 14, which we could be heading up that way. So that'd be great if they can accelerate up there. What else? We've got SSM. We've taken a partial on that one, which is nice. That service stream with that push up through $1.40. It did get to 145, but we backed off, and you would expect that really. Even if it's positive, you would expect a bit of a look how strong it's been, and we've been looking at it this price action here. But you go back to the weekly, it's come off 20 cents all the way up to $1.25, really unabated on the weekly chart anyway over the period of a good part of a year, or even further, year and a half. A bit of heat coming out of that market down to 80, but it still was holding higher lows on a weekly basis. So this price action is really nice, very similar to what we just looked at on was it AFMND or AFI, one of the two. So that's was good. We had it through, I think it was through here. We bought that through 121, and that was pretty much the day it popped up through, got us in, pulled back, put us under a bit of heat at the moment, bit of pressure, tightened the screws, but then kept holding higher lows, and this push up through 125 was really nice. Good to see, even though we did fall back, and that started accelerating. So really good. You do expect a bit of heat to come out there. We might pull back to, say, that 130, 25 to 30 mark. We'll just have to see how we go. And I've got a feeling, I'm just going to find out where... Let me just find out where the remaining exit zone is on that one. I can never quite remember. Alrighty. Partial $1.40, 127.5, which I think we've probably gone through, haven't we? Is that right? New remaining 127.5. Let's get rid of that. Which we are borderline. We're going to hit that soon. Let me just adjust this, guys. Sorry, I'm just going to go back here. Alright, now that's adjusted. So yeah, that's still looking quite good. Is anyone following that one there? That's about it. We've got a couple of others. We've got OGC, which is still, got us in at 450, but it's backed off since then. Still holding those high lows, so we'll just have to see if that can kick on through 440 zone and push up through 450 and just get on with it a bit. Otherwise, we might have to start looking at tightening that up a bit. I think we've got it down at still 410 on OGC. Yep, 395. So we've actually got it down below this major high low just in here. So, all good. Is there anything you want to look at? That's pretty much up. That's it from us, I guess. Is there any shares or even some FX? Anything you want to look at? Chuck into the chat, and we'll just see how we go. Does anyone remember the one we put up through? I just want to touch on this. Hub. We talked about this in the stream a while ago. The reason why it hasn't been an alert, just remembering the price action, it hasn't been an alert because it was quite small. It doesn't trade a lot, so putting it out as alert is going to be hard for people to actually trade it. What does it do? Look, so there's only a couple of grand on the offer, and then it goes up 5 cents, another 2 cents. So it's a bit sparse on that one, but all in all, the price structure was looking really good. We were looking at it, say, through 490, I think was when we were speaking about it. It's really kicked on strong. So if anyone managed to have a bit of a nibble at that, they'd be doing all right. All right, Wayne, we'll take a look at those. We've gone through the indices. I just want to touch on a few things. GXL, so we had a couple of shorts. Now, look, I know we didn't alert this as a short, but I just wanted to go through the price structure, and I don't know if anyone's got this GXL. We were originally looking at this as a potential buying opportunity, and it just didn't. It didn't look convincing at all, and it just wasn't showing the nice setups that we liked. And you can see why. It's just, I guess, through here. Just dragging on that. You can see this little candle here when it washed out those highs, and it did it time and time again. So at that stage, I don't like things. If we can draw this up, I'm not a big fan of washing out the lows and then going and washing out the highs. That's probably not going to be the best chart, is it? Or is it? So you just take it through those highs. That was a major high because it's led to just a bit of a rollover. You can see here. Then it's starting to struggle. I don't like, at that stage, I didn't like seeing this little wash out of this previous low. And then it's turned around and head straight up to wash out the highs. Not a big fan of that. When that finished below it, you would have expected if that was a solid move, or it was going to be really positive. and you can see the market was starting to look a bit extended up there. If it was going to be positive, you'd expect it to finish on its highs, and the MAs really through this zone here were pretty much, it was just consolidating through there. So it's not really picking up on the MAs. The MAs are not expanding, which we really do like to see. When I say expanding, I mean, well, this is expanding to the downside. See how they're coming apart? So you can see that most of the price action, so you get these little pullbacks you can look to get into as a continuation trade. But there's still, the MAs are starting to get further apart. We're not seeing that through here. They were just, pretty much going flatlining there. So it wasn't looking too great through there. So at that stage, you want to see it, push up quite, maybe up to 775, and then pulling back and giving us an opportunity to jump in, but it didn't play out that way. So really, when it started rolling over, you just flip it over and look. It just doesn't. It looks just as good a short as it did going long. So that's through 6. Anyone that's got that, just be careful. We could just wash out like we've just done that down through $5, wash it out, and then come back quite strong. But we'll see how that plays out. IFN's the other one that's looking a bit negative. A bit of the same price action, if you can see that. Let me just draw that up. Let's get this bigger price action. Has anyone been following IFN at all? You can see the thing is, when it pushed up through here, and you've got this type of price action, but then it doesn't go on with it. This is, I think it's a weekly. Is it? Yeah. Maybe I should have done that. So I'll just get up a daily chart. That's probably a little bit better. Come on. All right. So when it does that type of price action, it just makes it hard to convince yourself to buy it. You got that little push up off high lows. It pushes up into the previous lower high, a key level, and where the fact that it doesn't, any form of retesting the support, it doesn't do anything like that. It makes you a bit concerned on what's happening. So I would rather see at this price action, as it's moved down into that support base, it's reacted quite hard. I would like to see it push down and maybe retest it and then work off that zone, so you get that double bottom rather than just holding a high, bang, straight up back into the highs. So that's what I would like to see, a bit more effort from the sellers. Does that make sense, guys? A bit more effort to push it down. So the buyers just jump straight back in there. The market's obviously holding higher lows, but this type of price action is not good. When you just pop up through the highs, it doesn't go on with it and it has a deep retracement. So after that, if you're pushing up through here, what it's done is washed out those highs and then come and washed out anyone that may have bought it on a break if they've got their stop just below the higher lows. It's did it again, pushed up through, maybe dragged in a few people, went and just reversed and stopped them back out. It's that move down that's really getting us concerned. If you can just see what I'm talking about, that push down, so it's gone out of there after these couple of washouts here. It really can't go onto it, so you would expect if this market's going to go higher, it's either going to pull back, build another move, or at least engineer just get rid of some of this stuff. Let's just draw, this is very crude. So we've got that type of price action. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to build for a nice long, you'd want it to come all the way back down, a deeper correction, say just to wash out a lot more people, put them back on the sidelines, but hold a major high low. And if we can get this type of price action, potentially, then that might lead to, I'm going to scrunch it up there, might lead to a more of a major high low, and then another run up those highs, but you can get in at a better level. Now, the fact that I like the short, I'm more expecting maybe a pop up and then buyers, potentially people who bought it through here, have another crack at it, but just failing and making a more of a decent lower high. If it does that, then at least you're probably going to be targeting down towards, 70 cents from anywhere up at 95. You've got reduced risk on that. So Anyway, that's one that looks like a good short, and it was another one more. Bank of Queensland, I think it was. We go down to the weekly. That was looking like a good little buy, but up here it was at this stage, in here it was looking like a bit of a buy. We push up through these highs, but lo and behold, let's produce some lower highs with the rest of the banking sector. It started to roll over. So anyway, let's get into it. Wayne, we've got IAG. Let's just go to a bigger chart. So I'm just going to... I've given myself a black eye. Bit of a... it's all right from the cold. It seems to be getting the ears here, everything. What stock is this? This is IAG, Paul. How are you going anyway? And we're going to do a look at AMC. So anyone else that's got something they want to have a quick look at, just put it into the chat there. All right, let's take a look at the weekly. That price structure is looking quite nice. Don't mind that. Let's just go back to one step again. I know this is a longer term chart, but it just goes to show you've got that push up. You're way back in 2003. Made a lower high, had to pull back, right down towards that $3. And then we got this leg right back up into the highs again through 2012, 13, and 14, end of 2014. Bit of a pullback, but we're starting to hold higher lows back up into these highs at 660. So be interesting to see. This is a bit just what we mentioned just on that last chart. I can get that back up. This type of push down and then not really a retest or build that nice base that we like to see. It might be a bit of the same. Just draw that up. I've done the same thing again, haven't I? I really would like to see more of a base around here because we're getting up into those highs. We've just, edged our way high. You've got one, made a high low. It sort of pushed us up. Another high low, and it's just pushing us back up. That price action is not too solid. It's still holding high lows. Major high low here, and then what we may be seeing, just because of what's happening in the past, we may have to pull back off that level, may come back, and then just start building a higher low before we go again. And it could be somewhere, 540, 550, 60. We don't know. It's looking like just this type of price action, what we've seen. It's looking a little bit extended up here into the highs, but we'll see how it goes. That overall price action is still, I do like to see that anyway. Is that my little tool? That curving sort of a base, which we talked about in the past. It looks good, and all the new rules. Yeah. What do you do, Paul? Is it just your own self-managed super that you're looking at? Getting a bit of a nightmare anyway. So does that make sense just on that there, guys? That price action looks good, but I just think I would like to see, like I said, just a bit of a pull back off those highs. That's that leg up to that 660 mark. Like a nice little pullback and then hold a nice major high low, something like that. Well, something like that could actually take us up into the highs and potentially through. If we can be around this zone, that would be great. That was the previous high low, another little high low in here. That would be good. Just the way that price action's worked out, I'd expect it to have a bit of a pull off those highs. All right. Now, does that make sense there, Wayne? We'll just look at AMC. But either way, IAG's still looking okay. I actually don't mind it at all. Now, this is a weekly. Obviously looking at that weekly, you've got the markets pushing higher. It's quite controlled through here, holding above those MAs. It's the 20. It's had a good little pullback, pretty much sideways consolidation back to the 50 MA, and then started accelerating higher again all the way up to around 15. I've had a deeper correction because you would expect that after a solid move higher over the number of years, you would expect, so this is a key level right down at 10. Once you start getting ahead of that, it's more mean reversion like Devin was saying, but on a longer term basis. Probably this is the monthly chart, so you can see what I'm talking about there. It's just pulling back, bringing in a few more buyers, washing out a few people who had bought it previously or bought it late into that trend, washing them out, putting them back on the sideline, just for fuel to move that market higher. Once it hit up to 15, bit of contraction, but still held a good little level. Held up, was rejecting off that 12, and that's led to a little acceleration up to 1650. So it looks like at the moment we're just built that little minor, we've had that correction off 1650, or was it 1670? Pushed back up, tried to have a go at it again to make new highs, and that was you can see that red candle was quite strong. It was quite a good pullback, quite savage actually. But we pushed back up into those highs, couldn't get through, made a little lower high. So like I said, once you make those lower highs, your next target's sort of your higher low, which it did, but it's washed it out. It's not getting through there significantly. So if we just drop it down to the daily chart, and it's this most recent push up to 16, which looks interesting, which is just here. We'll just draw that. Excuse me. So that's the highs up there. You can see that little, make that a bit straighter. Little lower high just in here, and that's it's forced us to wash out the previous lows just in here around 14. That's just your washout, but then it's starting to hold. We're retesting it again. We're retesting that zone, say 14 bucks, and then that's led us to that little leg up. So what you'd be looking for here, there's no reason why this can't just pull back, make a lower high, and then go and be a short trade. Okay, it just may be that it can't get through 14, so it's had to have a deeper pullback. It's still well below the highs, and then roll over from there. So there's obviously got to be the setup from here. No worries, Sharon. We'll look at that in just a second. Does that make sense? So the overall structure is good. We just looked at the weekly. The weekly's heading higher. We're in the stage of a bit of a pullback, bit of consolidation through here off the highs at 1660, and it's taken some time. It's done a fair bit of work through here. It's showing some good signs of pushing up, taking out this little lower high around 1520 with this move up here to 15, say up towards 16. It doesn't mean that it's a buy just yet. That's where I think it's really important to just have your buy entry set up. And if we can just mark that up, if we can just actually draw that up properly, you can see we've pulled back, popped up, pulled back, popped up, if you can see that. And we're just there. I would like to see that failed push down below 15 and just hold up that high low, maybe a bit more contraction, and then get a level where you can easily work off. So it should be fairly clear. If this little contractive price action off 1600, it contracts, but it holds around the previous this major level at say 1530, 30 to 40, holds around here, and then you start getting some higher lows build. That should take us up and through 16, and you think at least attacking 1600 or 1660, sorry, and higher. And then you get the continuation of that weekly trend higher. So all looking good. It just needs your setup to play out, where you can at least analyse your risk. You know what you can get. You can potentially get a 2-to-1 trade off that, even 3-to-1 if you're getting something through here and targeting up towards that highs. You get into 3-to-1 trade. So all looking good. Just bear with me 1 second there, guys. Just be 1 second there, guys. Just be a tick. Okay, sorry about that, guys. It's Dennis the Menace. She's out and about, causing havoc. So does that make sense there, Wayne, on AMC, or did anyone else thoughts? I think what I'm seeing this price action through here, it's looking good. It's showing all some really nice signs, and it's in a good zone. This move down was getting to oversold. It was getting a bit extended, so the buyers were soaking it up quite high, at some higher levels, which always looks good. And I like to see that type of price action there. 1, 2 legs down. So now it's all about the buy entry setup, and I think it's got a lot of potential there. In fact, I think we've got this one alerted anyway, so it could be really good. Now CAJ, all right, it's been belted, hasn't it? I do. Capital Health. So first looking at this one, we've had that big run up from, 5 cents right up to $1.10, and then the market's given it all back up again. So I don't know what happened. There might have been news. Was there anything? Yeah, I'll have a look at S32 as well. I hope not, because we were booted out of that one a while ago. Now, we've got like we said, the market's pushed up there, whether it's news related. You can see that was quite a steep move up. You can see it's really starting to accelerate hard, but the move down, it come all the way back down to the start pretty much in about half the time. You can see from, what do we got? March 2015 down to about April 2016, so it's about a year, and I think the rally was from 2012, September. Yeah, close to 12, actually nearly 3 years, so half the amount of time sort of to give it all back up again. But this most recent price action, this is a weekly, don't forget, doesn't look too, it's probably not so great there, is it? Alright, let me just start again. Go to the daily. This price action looks quite good. So you've come all the way back down here, back down the start, close to 10, it's about 11, 12 cents. Had a good little reaction off that zone, and then we crept all the way back down, just took out the lows. Get our little colourful drawings up again. So it's at level around 3, and you can see it's just touched on down through there, but then it started perking up again. So, I mean, this is only, you can see that move down after that little push up. That move down, making lower highs, lower lows, will come back into a key level, washed it out, and we started lifting back up. So you got a nice little reaction off that level. It's only minor, but then we started going down. So sellers were still, whether there was still a lot of people that are just holding, and finally starting to give up. But then we're building these minor, it's ever so slight high lows off there, and you can see the market starting to lift off again, and we're holding some little high lows again. So the market's got some potential. Obviously, you've got a key, you've still got those highs around that 21 mark to contend with. So if I just want to draw it so it's a bit clearer. So this is just that price action that we're interested in. So that's sort of the zone there that we're going to potentially find or struggle with. That's a major support. That's that little washout we said. Then you can see the high lows are holding. Market's still doing quite well. So this tail, the right-hand side of the chart, I think it's a good part of this year that's been holding those high lows, pushing up. It is, and you can see with the stochastics don't mind exactly where it is. It's looking good. This little push down has been met with some good buying at higher levels, so buyers are stepping into the market a bit higher. If that's the case, we're going to find a bit of selling or reaction off 22. It's starting to get a bit long in the tooth, but this is nice and structured. Nice little structure, a bit of a pullback. It's all well contained. It's not getting out of hand. This little push up here, and then to spend a few days pulling back. So we're getting into that zone there. This market could easily hold up around that 17.5, maybe wash out 17.5, and then pop up. It'd be a hard one to trade because I think the setup's going to be fairly hard. You can see. But yeah, it looks good. And it looks nice, Sharon. CAJ. I did do the right one, didn't I? So if we, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that's going to range trade between there, or just find a bit of support and resistance where over the 50% mark on the way up. So I think any sort of buying, unless, and the only reason I would say that it may get some reaction off there is because we haven't seen this sort of different price action where it's built a nice high low. It's been steady, up, down, up, down, up, down. This type of price action, if you do it around the mid range, it has a good sharp move up, then pull back, bring in some more buying, and then you would expect another sharp move up, which is going to take us probably up and through 22.5. It's been a bit more controlled, that move up anyway, than say what we saw with that bounce off, say 10, 12, straight up to 22. All right. Wayne, I hope that helps there, Sharon. Let's just take a look at, was it S32? Oh, okay. 14. Oh, look, that's good. Either way, if you're just, you're holding your exit below the high lows, I think if you held it around 15, you got to break even trade. Are you looking to take a partial on that potential, or just to let it ride, or maybe up towards 22.5? See if you can get it up, partial exit up there, or at least what's your plan on it anyway? Your plan of attack. Now, for some reason, Spark, which is the system we use, doesn't like S32. Doesn't like that code. It's a pain in the butt to get. But it exists, which is dumb. And this is what I have to do to get it. Alright, South 32. Chart. Here we go. Yeah, no, that's good. Oh, that sounds good. Excuse me. All right. So this here, I actually have just kept my eye on this on South 32 because if you look at all that price action, there's not really a key level to be too concerned about in the weekly chart. It's definitely looking good. So the weekly, you can see that selling pressure off those highs at say around 3. That selling pressure it's getting quite steady. You can see, and it's getting down to that oversold mark, but it's getting held up. And you'll see that better when we go down to the daily chart. So if it holds up above that 240 with the push down, it's made pretty much a double top. If you hold above that, we struggle to go down and even retest it, because retesting is a bit more weakness. You can see that's looking a bit stronger on the weekly basis anyway. So it's just really correcting that leg up from say 240 up to 3, correcting off there. A bit of selling's coming for whatever reason, but it seems to be holding up now. And the pressure's been quite strong, like you can see through the stochastics. There's no other real key. If it holds up here and we start seeing those higher lows build on the daily basis, it is looking good. It's got potential legs to move higher. There's no real, we see that little push down. If you see, it's not really good. We've got that move up, which is this. Pull back, key level, pull back there. If we build a little lower high, then I think it's going to struggle, because it's had a good run up from, was it $1.90 way back in 2016. So a full year, pretty much all the way up to $3. A couple of 100% gain, I think it is, and it didn't really stop that whole time up. It was just grinding higher. It was really strong. So there is a possibility that we pull back, we're holding here, it looks good, people jump back in and we build that lower high. Obviously you're going to go into your daily charts just to keep an eye on that. Always a risk. but it's looking good. Long story short, let's just get into that daily. Just drill down on that recent price action. And sometimes the market, it can do that quite easily. It gets up, it stalls for whatever reason, and being a bigger stock, they might just take a bit of profit. That's fallen short there, obviously. 240 was that level, and you can see here. The good thing is it's around some key levels, and you're getting rejection off there. But all in all, it still hasn't proven itself that it's coming back up. So it could just consolidate through there and then bang out down the low, and that could be your lower high that we just mentioned. But surely not an ideal lower high where it pops up, drags some people in, and then they get washed back out again, which it could easily do through 275, get to 385, 285, and then bang, roll over from there. Or it could just consolidate, hold below 275, banging around. People expecting it to go up, they're buying in here, but then you still get these sort of minor, very, very minor lower highs, and then it pushes down at the bottom side, and then you'd expect it to at least target 240. So it still has some work to do on that, I think, there, Wayne. But it is in, like I said, the weekly chart is in a good zone, I think. Yeah, stochastics. Stochastics are showing they're in a good zone. The daily, whoop, come on, should be better than that. The daily stochastics, you can see it's grinding higher, so that's not the strongest of signs. You want to see some sharp reactions higher if it's going to be positive. Which it really hasn't done. It's just sort of holding between those two levels. It's a 15-cent range for the last few weeks. So it still has me a bit concerned, and especially off what could be a double top. A double top is obviously, like we know, it could be a strong negative sign. Even when it doesn't make exact double top and it's a lower high, that's a negative sign as well. So that move down could just be some early buying, a bit of people just sexing. They're not really going off price action in here, if that makes sense. Just buying it through here. There might be some sellers. Sellers might start to stack up. They're getting a bit peeved that it's not going anywhere. We've had this run up. It's struggling, and then they sell. Sellers take control again, and the market just dives. We'll just have to see. It's got, like I said, it's got a fair bit more work to do, I'd say, before I start to see the price action that I want. And I guess, like I said, the price action we'd want to see. We've had this move down into the zone. It's just sort of bouncing around in there. We'll draw that there. Taking out that. It's got this type of price action. I'd want to see more go at the high, maybe. I reckon it's got a more work to do. It's a bit of a spike up and then come back and then build your higher lows to go. And I think that's going to be a prime position. This could be a nice little buy entry through here. So I think they could have a couple set up. 1 or 2. That's what I'd like to see, but I'd like to see it top up, push up through 275 first, and then come back in to build that high low, ideally, because that is a stronger sign. Does that make sense? So that could be a nice sign that, and anyone who is watching it that may be expecting that to be a bit negative and waiting for it to roll over, this is going to get them second guessing. And if they're waiting for it to roll over for a buy, to buy at a cheaper price, that will get them second guessing, and that will potentially start dragging in some people. Pop up through the highs, 275, maybe a bit of a pullback, because it's not too convincing, and then you get these high lows holding, whether it be here or a bit later. That I think could be the key for a buy, because it could easily pop up here and then bang, off she goes to the downside. So it's all about your planning ahead, I guess, and just making sure you know what you're looking for when you're looking for the entries. So it's obviously that you guys are looking at some really nice stocks there, I think. You're looking at that structure. It's pretty easy to pick the longer term stuff. It's going up, going down, but it's harder to refine your entries to keep you out of trouble. I'm just trying to think of an example. What the entries have kept us out of trouble. Bank of Queensland could be one of them, I think. If you thought this was looking quite good, you said that push up there, it contracted back lower, a little wash out of 10, and then started picking up. That there, it's on a weekly basis. That to me on the daily is actually not bad. And that's what I'm saying, just waiting for the entries to keep you out of trouble. We'll draw it up. All this price action I did like. You know, you got your highs up here. You had that move down, quite controlled, and you can see that it's all lining up, quite nice. Okay, that's looking negative until we get this washout and this leg up here. So to me, that's nice and positive. That's what we look for time and time again. And then it's banging around in here. All right, that's not the most positive price action, but at that stage, what I was looking for is, well, I'll just draw it up. I think it was around here. I wanted to see essentially a high-low build, you know, to take us up and through. Now, it didn't play out that way, so that entry's kept me out of trouble, and because it's come back down through those lows at 1160. So it's always good to know what you want to see as confirmation that buyers are stepping up to the plate. So if that played out, that's beautiful price action, because you know you've contracted lower, you've had a bit of a washout, which drags in a few more sellers, fuel to get back out again when the market turns and heads higher, which it did, and then you're consolidating through those highs, say below 1260 and above 1140, up until we got this little leg down. It still had some really nice potential, but the setup didn't play out, and the market's just washed out those lows. So it is. I think it's very important just to know what you're looking for, and you know, I know it's easy in hindsight to say that, but just if you don't get what you see, don't fall in love with it. I guess, you know, don't fall in love with the stock because you put in a bit of effort and you've been waiting. It hasn't played out. Don't get impatient. Just wait to see your setup. If it doesn't play out, you move on to something else, because there will be a few that play out quite nicely. And if they don't play out, maybe there's something wrong with the overall market. It's starting to run out of steam, which potentially we could be seeing a bit of that in the ASX now. So, yeah, just stick to your plans, I guess, guys. Now, does that make sense when we're talking about the setups? Any questions on what we've just covered today? Anyone believe me, disbelieve me? I think I'm talking rubbish again. Market's only up 4. It's been a pretty contained market the last couple of days, which is interesting. Be interesting to see how South 32 does go there, Wayne. Anyway. All right. Now, if there's no more questions, nothing else you want to take a look at, what we'll do is call it a day there. It's been about an hour. We'll probably have to run off anyway. So thank you for joining us, guys. It's been a pleasure. And we'll be back in on Monday. Back in again at 12:30 on Monday. So look forward to you joining me then. Hopefully I'm feeling a little bit better and I don't sound as bad as I do now. Be a bit more perky. And we can cover a bit more anyway. Have a great weekend. Like I said, thanks for joining us, and we'll speak to you then. Enjoy, guys. See you later.